and welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how are you doing tonight?
I am feeling like it's a new year.
Well, it is a new year, and as we had discussed in our show of things that we were saying goodbye to and hello to, there are plenty of things that have changed. One of the things you and I have had many conversations about, I've been very quick to voice my displeasure, I guess, is the most appropriate word here on this particular thing going away. But tonight you are here to give us some answers that some of us that have used this service for years are looking for. Tonight's show is all about saying goodbye to the Magical Express and what is there for those of us that use this service that we can use to make sure that our transportation to the park is there for us.
And you're right. It's tough to say goodbye to anything. I'm somebody that doesn't do change. I'm somebody that, as much as I travel, I'd like to open my wallet as little as possible. And one of the other great things about Magical Express is, even if you didn't remember to do it and you forgot to plan ahead, you could just show up downstairs beside of the terminal in the airport and get on the bus, and you could call the day before on your way home if you forgot to give them your flight going home. You know, you should have done it in advance, but it was always easily there as a plan for you without a fee. And now it's time to change. But I'm going to give you some positive spins on the change, one of which some of you are going to nod your head now. The check-in line is going to be shorter for any other option you're taking. And the ride to the resort, in many cases, is going to be quicker. So while you have that extra step of doing it and the extra step of paying it, we're going to try and find some silver linings for you.
Well, I appreciate that. So, going into this for the listener, where I stand. I stand that this is something that we used often with my family. I travel with two small children that are still in car seats. So that is my perspective. It may be yours. It may not be yours. But that is something that we're going to discuss tonight. So I always brought up the travel friction concept that Disney for years tried to avoid. My contention was that eliminating this kind of brings some of that back. But I think you've got about 5 options that you wanted to discuss today. And I know that each one of them really has some different things for each group of people rather, that are traveling, that it appeals to them. So where would you like to begin?
I'm going to start where people think is usually the quickest answer, especially for older people who weren't around. They didn't have Uber and Lyft all their life. Most people immediately go to a rental car. And I will tell you that this is probably my least favorite option for people. You're driving somewhere you're not used to. You're driving a car you're not used to. You're going to pay to park that car in your Disney resort. So you're not going to pay if you drive it to the park because you're an on-site guest, but you're going to pay for it to sit at your resort. And the fee varies based on the resort, but you're looking at $15 to $25 a night. So that's going to add up. You've got the rental car cost. You've got the parking cost. There are tolls on your way to the Orlando airport. And then, of course, you've got gas fees on top. So in my mind, rental car is your last option, unless you're planning on outlet shopping and doing other things that you really need the car. We've got an old episode that I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Walt Disney World transportation is awesome. You do not need a car to get around. So take car out of your mind, but I am going to give you 2 tips if you're really set on having a car. The first is, it's not easy to get the best price on a car without putting in a lot of effort. Rental car prices change constantly. I normally will book my rental car as soon as I have my airline tickets, and then I check it routinely, typically once or twice a week for a while. I'll even sometimes check it from the airport before I'm heading down if it's not a holiday, because the rates will change. I've had them drop by as much as 40%, but I've also seen them rise by as much as 35%. So grab whatever you can on day one so that you're locked in for your worst case scenario, and then you have room to play. Make sure that you're pre-registered with the rental car company. Orlando's super simple. The rental cars are literally across the road. So you'll pick up your luggage, go down one floor, and walk across to the parking lot. You don't need a shuttle for the majority of the rental car companies. And if you're pre-registered, you can head right to the garage, and your car should be in whatever rental car company you're using, their express lane, their priority lane, any of those specialty words where your car is assigned and waiting for you. If you're not pre-registered, you're going to get on a long line. And I expect that those lines are going to be longer in the beginning of 2022 as more people are going for cars. And that wait in the terminal to talk to somebody before you go across the street, 10 to 45 minutes if you're not pre-registered. And that pre-registration, my favorite word, free. So definitely go for the pre-registration.
I do think that something you said in the beginning when you started talking about rental cars definitely applies, though. And you mentioned this with every show that we do. It really depends upon the nature of your trip, what works for your traveling party. If you know that you're going to go into Orlando, and now because this Magical Express option no longer exists, you're going to explore some different parts of the area that maybe you didn't before, maybe the rental car does work for you. So take that into some consideration as you're planning this out. As you said, it's the one piece here, especially right now, where the price fluctuation is just not something that we can possibly nail down for you. So just keep that in mind as you go. What's option 2?
Uber or Lyft. And again, I'm all about saving money. So check your credit cards if you have an Uber or a Lyft deal. With my Chase card, I am Lyft preferred for free. So it gives me a better rate. And sorry for the rest of you, it moves me to the front of the line to get the closest driver. Travel friction. I don't want to stand around and wait. But a Lyft or an Uber is great if you're one person or two people. Again, you need to do what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable getting in a car, just you or your family with a stranger, Uber or Lyft isn't going to be the way for you to go. Uber or Lyft is typically going to be $30 to $45 for a car that's going to hold typically 3 people. If you've never used Uber or Lyft, they use what's called surge pricing. So if you arrive on Christmas Day at noon, you might pay double for your trip because it's a popular time and not a lot of people are working. But again, typically $30 to $45, but things to think about. You can get a car seat with an Uber or a Lyft. There's a special section where you can order it. It's hard to get one with a car seat. It's close to impossible to get one with 2 car seats. Nothing against any of these Uber drivers, but I'll be honest, I'm not putting my kid in a shared seat like that I don't know when it was last cleaned. So for me, not a great option if you have kids. The other thing is, keep in mind, these are people's personal vehicles. They are supposed to not have other things in their car when they pick you up. But if you struggle to figure out how you were getting to the airport from home because you had so much luggage, you're getting into a car that's a regular person's car. Yes, you can order a minivan, a limo, all of those things, but then it raises the prices. But I love the convenience. I love that you can do it last minute. Super easy to get Ubers. They are very, very easily available at the Orlando airport and on your way back.
Yeah, so essentially, as we said in the beginning, you got to consider what your traveling party is. If it's the 2 of you, if it's 1 of you, might be a great option. If there's 5 of you, maybe not so much. So, we just keep going down the line here and try to find, just as we would with an accommodation or a dining reservation, we try to find what is best for your traveling party, which brings us to the 3rd option.
And again, I think that's the important thing that you brought out too, Jeff. You don't have to do the same thing in both directions.
Correct.
So maybe an Uber is great for you coming back because you want to cut it closer or different things. You can definitely do different things in different directions. So our next option is going to be a car service. And what I love about the car service is obviously they're expecting you, and they're only expecting you. So they're waiting for you. That's going to be your quickest option. With the Uber or the Lyft, you're waiting till the driver gets to you. Could be 5 to 12 minutes, and then they're driving you. The car services, they're going to meet you at the bottom of the escalator right before you claim your bag, and they're going to be tracking your flight and ready for you when you get in. That obviously is something to be reserved in advance. It's going to be about double what you pay for the Uber or Lyft. A lot of car service companies, the one that we recommend with our clients, each way you're looking at $93 for a town car, typically, again, 3 to 4 people, depending on your amount of luggage. It's only $5 more to move up to a minivan. So we recommend that to a lot of people for that $98. If you're a family of 4 with a lot of luggage, the minivan gives you that extra space. If you're a big family or 2 families coming in at the same time, that's really where you can save. A 10-person van with enough luggage space is going to be $134. If you have to divide into 2 to 3 Ubers, not worth it. The other thing with the car service is car seats and booster seats readily available, typically $10 per seat per direction. One of the other great things with the car service is they will include, as long as you've reserved it in advance, a free 15-minute stop. So while we've talked in other episodes about Amazon Prime Now and grocery delivery, anybody who knows me, I am a walking ad for Target Carside. I absolutely live for Target Carside. I don't know what I did before it existed. And I Target Carside when I get to Orlando. I have it all set up in advance. I stop and pick it up. And again, the car service will pull into Target Carside for you or any supermarket or other stop of your choice.
You're getting essentially 2 stops for one there that maybe if you were to take an Uber or a Lyft on, you might get banged a little bit differently for. So good to know, especially when you're traveling in a large party. You had said a 10-person van would be $134. And then when we go to the next option, you can really see where that savings comes into play. So what's our next option?
Our next option is going to be Mears. And if you're a Disney file, and you probably are if you're listening to our show, you know that Mears is actually the company that ran Magical Express. And so I'm going to be really upfront. I have some mixed feelings. They have now started what's called Mears Connect. Essentially, they've got to unwrap those buses that we loved that said Magical Express. And sometimes you didn't get one of those special wrapped buses. You got the yellow Mears bus. We know that they know how to do this. They've done it. They've proven that they've done it for many years. However, we also know that sometimes they've had long lines. Sometimes they've had a lot of stops. For free, beggars won't be choosers. For a service, let's look a little more carefully. So Mears Connect is $16 an adult, $13.50 a child per person per direction. So that's definitely an option to think of. You know where you've been, you like going there, you feel confident because they've been doing this for a long time. You're good to go.
Right.
However, I'm going to give you option 5, which I'm super excited about. There's a new service by a long-time existing transportation company in Florida that is now starting on February 1st. And it's called the Sunshine Flyer. And here's why I love it. It's really just a bus like Mears, like Magical Express. However, the outside of the bus is wrapped to look like a locomotive. Every bus is different. They've got this whole fleet of locomotives. Your driver is actually an engineer. He's got an engineer's hat. He's got paper engineer hats for all the kids. They've got some videos playing. It's a lot of fun. It's a neat, unique way to start your trip. They're going to kind of break even with Mears. So as I said, Mears Connect, $16 an adult, $13.50 a child. The Sunshine Flyer is more per adult by $1. They're $17, but they're $12.50 for a child. So if you're a family of 4, it prices the same way. And again, that is per direction. One of the things that I really like about Sunshine Flyer, besides how kitschy I think it is I like their promise. They promise that you will wait no more than 20 minutes to board the bus, and you will be on that bus no more than an hour. And I know an hour can sound like a long time, but keep in mind, if you were to drive yourself, it's about 30 minutes point to point. So if they're stopping at 2 or 3 resorts, they've got to pull into the resort. They've got to stop the bus. They've got to open the bottom. They've got to take people's luggage out, get the people off, and then get back on before they go to the next one. It's the multiple stops that really takes a little bit of time. But I'm excited that they're willing to make that commitment. That's not something that Mears Connect is committing to. So there are people that will tell you some horror stories that, they waited in a long line and then they were the fourth stop and it took an hour and a half for them to get there. Again, free? All right, maybe I'll take a little bit more time. But when I'm paying, I want to pick what's best for me. So again, your party size is also going to influence what's your best cost. They're all going to get you there. They're all going to be an easy option. Some are easier than others.
So one question from my end as far as this last option that you have there, because this is obviously taking a service that we've discussed that was free that's now becoming a paid service. Do we have any idea if the Mears service is going to mirror the stops that they had from the Magical Express service? Do we know if the Sunshine Flyer is going to follow the same pattern as far as the same resorts are going to be on the same locomotive or bus, however you would like to address the theming? Do we know anything specific about either of those two services yet as far as how they're going to run their actual routes?
I think we know a little bit because we understand the geography of Walt Disney World and we understand that they're a business. So for example, it is pretty safe to assume that unless the bus fills from one resort, it's going to have multiple stops. The stops are always going to go in order. So, for example, Art of Animation and Pop Century are going to share a bus. There's no doubt about that to me. They literally share a lake and some walkways. They are next door to each other. When you get off the highway, you get to Art of Animation first. They're not going to drive by it just because there's more people for Pop Century.
Right.
So with either of them, Art of Animation is going to come first. Pop Century is going to come second. Typically, if they're going to put a third stop on there, it's going to be Caribbean Beach because Caribbean Beach and Pop Century share walkways. It's all about geography. Here's why I can't give you a better answer, and I don't think they can either. You never know, even with the best of plans, what's going to happen because you're going to have a reservation, but this isn't like going to dinner. I'm in Magic Kingdom. I've got a 5:00 dinner reservation at Be Our Guest. It's my responsibility to stop getting on a ride and walk myself over to be online to check in at Be Our Guest at 5:00. I had a client last week whose flight was delayed by 3.5 hours. That means that the original shuttle that they thought was going to be full with all these people going to Pop Century, those people are now getting on a shuttle 4 hours later.
Right.
So both of those companies are constantly monitoring the incoming flights and then working from there. And again, even just like getting yourself to dinner, people who are in the front of the plane might get down and make the bus before somebody from the back of the plane. People who don't have carry-on, people who stop for a snack, stop at the bathroom. There's just so many variables when you're looking at a bus with this number of people. That's why I like the commitment that Sunshine Flyer has made. Mears knew what they were doing with all these people coming from Disney. But now that whole group of people is dividing. Some of them are going to get rental cars. Some of them are going to get Ubers. Some of them are going to get a car service. Some are going to get Sunshine Flyer. So even Mears, who has a lot of experience in this, it's a game changer for them. They don't know. Obviously, they're going to take some walk-ups. There's going to be reservations in advance, and they're going to have an idea. But flight arrival times is a wild card.
Always has been. And as far as we can tell, probably always will be. Anything else that we haven't discussed tonight that you think you want to leave anybody with?
I'm going to give you two thoughts. The first is a service that I mentioned before. And I will say that, as I said, Mears was the shuttle service, and you didn't know it as Mears. You knew it as Magical Express. But pre-COVID, we had that magical bag delivery, which I loved. Greatest thing in the world. That was actually operated by a company called Bags Inc. BAGSINC. They do that bag delivery at airports all over the country. So you can have them pick up your luggage and deliver it to your home airport. You can have them pick up your bags in Orlando so that you don't wait. And then they will deliver it to the hotel for you. You can have them pick it up at Newark Airport, Chicago Airport, Boston Airport, wherever you live after your trip and deliver it home for you. So we can help you find ways to eliminate the travel friction for you. The other piece that I'm going to say, and Jeff, you and I have talked about this at length, giving up Magical Express is tough. We've had it for 16 years. I will say I was a little skeptical of it and bags when it started, but we've come to love it. But the reality is we are celebrating Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. We've only had Magical Express for 16 years. We all figured out how to come and go for 34 years before it existed. We'll figure out how to come and go for well more than 34 years after it's gone. Don't let this be the bump in the road for you.
I appreciate you taking the time tonight to give us these different options. With change comes different opportunities for lots of different companies and for lots of different people to kind of explore things that maybe they hadn't before. Thanks for taking the time tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share on your Facebook and Instagram for other Disney fans to enjoy. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week. And as always, keep making memories.